Hi guys, planning to start a series for short videos which will be helpful for the candidates who are trying to prepare for Part B MRCS. As we know, there are specific points regarding critical care, then we have anatomy stations, then we have pathology stations, and then we have skills stations. So I'm trying to start with the critical care stations. This is the first station we are doing today about burns. So basically burns is a kind of an injury because of the heat or friction or electricity, radiation or chemical. The degree of burns can be divided into first, second or third degree, but mostly we divide it in clinically the superficial, partial or the deep burns. So for the partial or superficial burns, it will be like painful, red in color, there will be mild swelling, blisters, and the typical feature which differentiates it from the deeper burns is blanches on pressure, while the deeper burns will be like white or black shad color, leathery in appearance, they will be painless and they will not blanch on pressure. The types of burns, if they ask, kind of thermal injury, again divided if it is because of the hot liquids, can be scald, then the flame burns, then the flash burns due to exposure to the natural gas, alcohol or combustible liquids, or can be the contact burns because of the contact with the hot metals or materials. Then can be electrical injury, chemical burns, the cold injury which is frostbite. It's a reverse kind of is thermal injury again, but on the high because of the low temperature. Then the radiation can cause the skin burns, and also the sun burns can cause the skin burns. How one manages the patient of burns? There are like 3 or 4 scenarios. First is at the scene of injury, then during the transfer to the hospital, then in the hospital or the major trauma center, then again when the patient is referred at a specific specialized center. For Part B MRCS exam, it would be like you are attending a patient in hospital. So what we have to talk is about in the major hospital or the major trauma center. So here it will be the primary survey, assessment and management of burns, secondary survey, and if required, transfer to the specialized center. So coming to the actual management of the patient with burns, the patient is there with you, brought by emergency medical services or by referred by self in the emergency room. This patient is definitely a trauma patient, so you'll follow the ATLS protocol and you'll follow the ABCDE approach. A, airway, B, breathing, C, circulation, D, disability, and E is for exposure. Airway, in burns typically we want to rule out there is no injury, thermal injury to the upper airway. So what you will see is the respiratory distress, patient is having dyspnea, stridor, wheeze, hoarseness of voice, airway edema is there, deep facial burns are there, there is any sooty sputum or the history of burn in enclosed space, raised carboxyhemoglobin levels, or the nasal hairs which are singed, and then you know that there are chances of the patient having the upper respiratory tract burns injury. Then you should not be really waiting much or thinking much about intubation. So whenever in doubt, you should do intubation, and for that you will call the senior anesthesiologist or call for help. Consider the early intubation, and typical thing is that you won't cut any portion of the endotracheal tube here in the burns patient. If there are patients with facial burns, make them sit upright. To assess for the breathing, you will check for the chest movements and mini respiratory examination. Typically in burns case, you'll see the torso, if there is full thickness, deep burns circumferentially involving the torso, then it can hamper the breathing, so you'll need to do eschorotomy in these cases. You'll, as in any other case, you'll provide 100% FiO2 oxygen to the patient, high flow oxygen, and also simultaneously you look for the saturation, and you can collect samples for arterial blood gas analysis. For the circulation, again here you are putting 2 large bore peripheral IV lines in unburned area. Take samples for urea and electrolytes, full blood count, liver functions. Creatine kinase is important because the burns patient can have rhabdomyolysis and myoglobinuria, so you want to check for that. You will also cross match in case it's required to do blood transfusion in these patients. You will also assess for the levels of toxins or drugs like alcohol in cases the patients are coming like semi-conscious or comatose, and then you need to rule out there is another non-burns or the non-accidental injury involved in that. Also do the calcium and clotting because the hypocalcemia can set in this patient, and also they can have the coagulopathy, so you need to do the clotting examination. If there is circumferential full thickness burns including involving the limbs, then you need to assess the perfusion distal to the burns area, elevate the limbs and consider escharoctomy in these areas. After that, you have finished that ABC, that is most life-saving thing to be done. This is primary assessment. Then once settled down and then at least you have a time to breathe, then you'll go for the disability assessment. You'll assess the level of consciousness, pain score, and you'll also give IV analgesics, mostly opioids. Then you'll do the complete exposure of the patients to assess for the complete burns area. You will remove the dressings, loose clothing, jewelry or nappies. If there is any clothing which is burnt and adherent to the skin, don't try to remove that. If there is no first aid already applied, and if it is like within 3 hours of injury, you know the complete history accurately, then try to cool the wounds for 20 minutes, which can be done by running water or wet compresses. You'll also clean with normal saline or tap water. Now you'll come to calculate the burns area according to the most accurate here is the Lund and Browder chart, but you can also use the surface area by the palm of the patient, which can be considered as 1%, and then you can calculate based on that, which is cumbersome. The easiest way is Wallace rule of 9, which can give you the fair idea of involvement of burns. Maybe sometimes it will overestimate, but that's okay. You'll not include any erythema in this estimation. What you need to do really should be like it should be the at least partial thickness burns or the deep burns, not only the superficial erythema is considered here. And you'll also assess the depth of burn. You will take the photographs and maybe you'll refer this patient to specialized burn service if required, and cover those areas with loose strips of cling film. What cling film will do, it will actually stop evaporation and stop infection, also can maintain the normothermia for this patient. But you will not apply these cling films to the face, obviously, because it can cause asphyxia to these patients. Then you'll implement active warming measures to prevent the heat loss. So apart from these ABCD, as we talked about, endotracheal intubation in airway, escharoctomy for the limbs or the torso involving, then you can also consider central venous line placement if the peripheral line is not possible, or you can do the venous cut down in the lower limb, the saphenous vein. And also as urine output is important here to maintain the circulation and to assess for the adequacy of your circulation measures, then you need to do urinary catheterization of these patients. Same time, you will be trying to gather the information about the details of incidents, what kind of environment was there, mode of injury, length of exposure, possible chemicals involved, associated non-burns injuries and non-accidental injuries, and tetanus immunization status. If not known, then according to the protocol, then you will go for the tetanus immunization for these patients. So how will you replace fluids in the burns patient? What we use is a modified Parkland formula. In original formula, there were colloids used. Here we are using the Hartmann's or Ringel lactate, which is a crystalloid. Colloids can actually leak into the extravascular space because of the high permeability in the initial period within 24 to 48 hours because of the high degree of burns. There is SIRS setting in, so that causes actually more of a fluid being lost in extravascular space because of the oncotic pressure, then you are actually losing the fluid from the intravascular space. So rather than helping, they are detrimental to the patients. So you are not using colloids unless it is specifically indicated. The albumin is very low or the patients are having low hemoglobin, and there are specific indications for that. We'll not go into those details. However, the modified Parkland formula which we need to know is 4 milliliters per kilogram per total body surface area which is burnt, and you'll start for any adult presenting with more than 15% of TBSA, and for any child with more than 10% of TBSA. Of these, 50% of the volume will give in first 8 hours and 50% in the next 16 hours. So this is the formula only applicable for first 24 hours. You will deduct any fluid which is already given during the transfer, and the start time you will consider as a time of injury. And the goal of this is to maintain at least 0.5 ml per kg per hour urine output in adults, and in child 1 ml per kg per hour. So apart from urine output, what other parameters you can use for adequate perfusion is the capillary refill time. The normal should be less than or equal to 2 seconds. Then the peripheral or core temperature, pulse rate, and then rhythm and the volume of the pulse, blood pressure, the signs of hydration and dehydration like skin turgor, mucosal dryness, its color, whether it is pallor or pink. Then central venous pressure, if it is already in place, the central line, and the hematocrit, which is like a lab parameter. You can use it, but in cases of burns there is hemolysis, and if you have also given the blood transfusion, then it is not very much reliable. Also keep in mind that in 10th edition of ATLS for adults with thermal burns, they have recommended that 2 ml per kg per total body surface area of burns should be the ideal amount of fluid to be given. For child it is 3 ml, and for electric burns it is 4 ml, and also for electric burns you have to maintain the urine output in the range of 2 to 3 ml per kg per hour, because you need to prevent the myoglobinuria and renal failure in these cases. So this is a sample of Lund and Brauer chart. You can see according to the age it will be different calculation for different areas of body parts. Then Wallace-Ruffoloff 9s, I'll not go into these details. You know them, how every body part is divided in portion of either 9 or half of it or the double of it, and then 1% is for the perineum, so ultimately making it 100%. What are the complications of burns? It can be divided into immediate or late. It can be again local or systemic, and most important, it can be life threatening or limb threatening and other complications. So what are the life threatening or worrisome complications in the early period? So as we talked, patients are mostly killed immediately because of the respiratory compromise in any kind of trauma. So what you have to understand here, the respiratory things, what can be there? The CO, carbon monoxide poisoning, respiratory burns or laryngeal edema. Then the most important or the most common reason of losing the patients in burns are hypovolemic and septic shock. Then also can be hypothermia, hemolysis, coagulopathy, electrolyte imbalance, which may cause cardiac arrhythmia. The common electrolyte imbalances in burns patients are hyperkalemia, hypo or hypernatremia, and hypocalcemia. And again, associated rhabdomyolysis will cause myoglobinuria and renal failure. Then can be after few days they can develop ARDS and respiratory failure. They can also develop multi-organ failure, and that is the commonest cause of death in these patients. Then the life-threatening complications are these, and the limb-threatening complications can be constricting burns in the limbs, which may compromise the blood circulation there. Then other can be the stress gastric ulcers in the stomach, which is called as Curling ulcers as well, contractures and deformity and scarring in the long term, and the post-traumatic stress disorder in these patients. Also in any ATLS protocol, always remember any trauma patients, if you don't know the accurate status and the history, even if you know that, then always it is you have to fix the cervical spine. So even if it is not mentioned, then you have to be like keeping in mind that always tell your management as ABC with cervical spine fixation initially. So these are the like short summary of burns things. I hope it will help you. We'll come back again with other topics, and we'll discuss them more. Thank you so much.